what kind of information are you receiving from the IT? You know, remember we spoke of those light beings back then? Are you still doing plasma? Yeah.
Oh yes, they've helped me so.
What are
They're
they saying lately?
well, they're trying to that exactly what I'm talking about. They've been teaching me all this stuff directly,
Lately.
and and a lot of it is it's so hopeful for the future. You know, we could talk about them for a second,
Yeah,
just for
yeah, yeah. They
a few
perfectly
minutes.
fit in this conversation.
Well, it's because the discussion, what they're holding with me, is exactly what we're talking about, and they just wanted to talk about what they've been through, and because we are going through the same thing that they went through. These are beings that live inside the earth, and what we don't know, there are people inside there. It's so filled with life, it's crazy. And there are other ways that life exists external to the earth that we don't know about either. But anyway, they're about 1.5 million years older than us, and they also were in physical forms on the surface of the earth, not in human bodies, but in other bodies. But they attained the same level of consciousness that we're in right now, and they were doing exactly the same thing. They were killing the earth and each other, and had wars and fighting and going crazy, and they hated it. They couldn't stop it. And then what they said was one day in one of their cities, this metal ship came out, round circular ship came out of the sky, landed in one of their cities, and these beings came out and talked to them for about 30 minutes. And all they did was tell them something about the earth, and then tell them something about themselves, and left. They said they'd never seen them since. They'd been gone. And all they wanted to do was to explain something that they needed to change, and then their problems were over. And so because of the dramatic way that they received this information, they took it seriously. And according to them, it took them a little more than 100 years to figure it out. And when they did figure it out, they realized that their bodies were just light, and they could actually walk right through each other. And then they went through a whole series of stages. After several hundred years, and they realized, well, wait a minute, we're never going to die. We're never, ever, ever, ever going to die. We are eternal at this point. And so they had to start thinking differently because we're human and we think in 100-year periods. We don't think much longer than that. And even if you're thinking 7 generations, okay, we're thinking 700 years, But they said that when you really become immortal and you really truly know that you are never ever going to die again or ever be sick or ever anything ever again, then your spirit changes. You actually alter the way you perceive things. And then what they did was they became clear that this body was just an image inside their consciousness. And they said, well, we don't need the body. We don't need hands and feet or anything because we're just floating here now because we don't need to eat. We don't need water. We don't need anything. We don't need cars or any vehicles to get us anywhere. We can be anywhere we want. And they changed their shape to a sphere about a foot in diameter, not very big, a little ball of white light. And they felt it was much more comfortable and it felt better. And it's more in tune with the nature of the universe, which is based on a sphere. The planet is a sphere. The Earth is a sphere. The Sun is a sphere. And it's the nature and the geometry behind all of this is a sphere that actually created everything. And they felt better. But then they were on the surface still, and they started building things. They started building buildings which they would build from their consciousness. And then they go, but we do this, and this is not a safe place to be on the surface. And they decided that what they want, even though they couldn't die, anything they create would be destroyed. And so they decided to go inside the Earth. Now, they could have left the Earth, which is what happens most of the time. When a race gets to this level, they just leave and they go into space and they start exploring. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to stay connected to Mother Earth. They didn't want to break that connection, at least not now. And so they decided to go inside of her body, and they had to start thinking differently. And so instead of thinking of 100 years, they started thinking of 100 million years at a time. What are we going to do for the next 100 million years? And we don't have those thoughts, but we're going to, really soon, we're going to start thinking those same kind of thoughts. And so they went into these caves that were in Mexico, where those giant crystals, remember we found in the 1990s, they found that huge cave with these 35-foot long crystals, and they're like, they're about 6 feet in diameter.
Nothing like the big rock that you have behind you?
Well, that's selenite. I put selenite there because it is directly connected to us. I mean, we have a direct connection with them now. They're in our government. They're in all kinds of levels of life. They look human, but they're not. They're really, they love us. They're not here to hurt us or harm us. They don't need anything from us, and we can't do anything to them. We could blow up an atomic bomb inside of one of their spaceships, and it would do absolutely nothing to them at all. In fact, they would probably like it. They like hot. They like it when it's really hot, and they like energy. So they would probably think it was a very cool thing to do, but it wouldn't have any effect on them. And so they then went into the Earth, into one of these caves. And the reason they went into the caves, which isn't very far, it's only a couple thousand feet down, but those crystals have been there for over 100 million years. And they think, okay, we need to be in a place like this that doesn't change over long periods of time. And they went and lived inside those crystals. And in fact, they told me the very fact that we discovered those caves was because they let us do them. They wanted us to know about that. And now they're finding thousands of those caves all over Mexico and all over this Four Corners area. And selenite is also in France, which is why you're beginning to see some of those ships around there. And it's wherever the selenite is. But then later, they went deeper inside the Earth and found these huge geodes that were flattened by the pressure. They look like flying saucers, kind of. And they're like a mile across. And they started living in those places and found, wow, this is fantastic, because they love the heat and they love the light that is produced inside the Earth. There's massive light inside the Earth. And only they are producing more light than that. Those selenite caves, when they're in them, are just brilliant light, brilliant white light from them, from all of them just being there. They produce their own light. And so now they feel that we are brothers and sisters. We both have the same mother and father. We both are from Mother Earth and Father Son, and they feel that they have a responsibility, kind of as an older brother or sister, to help us, and they really want to help us. And so I think that when things start getting a little crazy, we're going to see their orange ships all over the world, and believe me, you have no reason to be afraid of them at all. They will help you. If whatever they can do, they will do to help us. So we are about to go through that. We are about to go through a transition very similar to what they just went through. And when we get to the other side of this, we're going to realize that every single last one of us are immortal. We are never, ever going to die, ever again. And any of our bodies being broken or in wheelchairs or illness or disease or whatever it is, it's a thought away. That's all it is. It's just simply a misconceived thought of not understanding the reality. And you can fix all those things in an instant. And this is the Mayan prophecy.